Hi, welcome to the first introductory lecture for the course Introduction to Symbolic Logic, Philosophy 12. My name is Bert Baumgartner. I'm going to be the instructor for this course, and as you probably have already guessed, a lot of the lectures are going to be posted as videos online that you'll be able to access through a website, which will link you to the YouTube site where you'll be able to see a lot of the lectures. So in this first one, what I'm just going to do is go over the syllabus and say a little bit about what you should expect in this course and what I'm expecting of you as a student taking this course. And if there's any other questions, you can leave questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer those. But there will also be the first day of class, a professor who's going to be coming in to answer any other questions you might have and give you an introductory lecture to logic, because I'm actually not going to be here on the very first day on Monday. So there will still be class on the Monday, but it won't be me who's giving that first lecture. It'll be somebody else. So let's get started. So like I said, this is Introduction to Symbolic Logic. This is a course that's going to be taking on this winter, and it's on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 11 to 11:50, and hopefully you will have made it to Hoagland class 168, that's where we'll be spending most of our class time. My contact information is up here. You can just email me at my UC Davis address. There will also be a separate email address for questions about problem sets and things like that, so I'll have a separate email address that you will receive in the future. My office hours are going to be held on Wednesdays from 12:30 to 2:30, and they'll be in the philosophy department in the first day of class when I will be there. I'll make sure you guys know where that is, and I'll give you some directions if you haven't been in the philosophy department before. Okay, so as for the course and the course description, so this is an introductory course to formal symbolic logic, so we're going to assume absolutely no background whatsoever in logic. And the logical system that we're going to study in this course is called propositional logic, or sometimes it's also called sentential logic. And there's a few things that we're going to focus on in this course about propositional logic. One is we're going to look at the expressibility of logic, of propositional logic. That is to say, we want to see what this logic can see, so what this logic can say. So logics are formal languages that we're going to use to try to say things. And what we're going to do is look at what sorts of things it can express and some things that it can't express. And we're going to do that by comparing it to English. So English is an extremely rich language, and there's lots of things that we can say. But propositional logic won't be able to say everything that we can actually say in English. So what we want to do is see how much we can actually say in propositional logic and compare it to natural language. We're then also going to use the formal language of propositional logic to study this notion of logical consequence. So one of the things we're going to go over at the beginning of the course is this notion of a logical consequence. So an argument is a set of premises that are supposed to support a conclusion, and the relation between the set of premises and the conclusion is a logical one, so that the conclusion is said to entail or has to follow from the set of premises. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that, and we're going to study what that relation exactly is in this course. And we're going to study that relation by using the formal language of propositional logic. And there's three different ways we are going to study this relation. We're going to use truth tables, we're going to use truth trees, and we're going to use derivations. And all of these things will become clear as the course goes on. And throughout the course, we're also going to talk a little bit about the meta-theory of propositional logic. And all we mean by meta-theory is we're going to talk about the logic. So there are things that can be said within the logic, but we're also going to talk a little bit about the theory that is about the logic. So you can think about it like this. Logic might be like English. And if we want to talk about English, we have another language to talk about it. And it actually, within English, you can talk about English. So I can talk about the grammatical rules of English, and when I'm talking about the grammatical rules of English, I'm actually doing it in English. But when I'm talking about the language, that's doing the meta-theory of it. And so we're going to do a little bit of meta-theory of propositional logic, but the meta-theory will be done in English and the object language, or the object language that we're going to talk about is the propositional logic. Now, if this all sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo to you, that's totally okay. All of these notions will become clearer to you as the course proceeds. I just wanted to say what exactly this course is going to be about, and all of this will become clearer as time goes on. So I don't have any particular expectations of who's going to be in the course. So whether or not you're in the humanities or in engineering or in the sciences, it doesn't matter. There's the course isn't specifically for anybody, but the course will be of particular interest to students that are in philosophy, that are in computer science, or mathematics, or linguistics. And the reason why is because in all of these disciplines, there's a heavy use of symbolic logic. And so this is a course specifically of interest to those students. Okay, so some pedagogical remarks about how this course is going to be taught. Learning logic is very much like learning another language. And if you've ever learned a second, third, or fourth language, one of the things that should be clear is that it requires a lot of practice, especially if you're older. I mean, if you're a child, you sort of pick these things up very easily. But as we get older, these things don't come as naturally to us, and it's the kind of thing that requires lots of feedback and lots of practice, and not just knowledge of it. So one of the main things then about this course is to be able to have lots of time to practice. And traditionally the way a course is taught is you go into class, you have a professor lecture at you, and then you go home and you might work on the homework, and you might struggle through the homework problems, and the time you need the instructor the most is actually when you're at home working on the problems, not when they're just giving you the lecture. So this course is going to be flipped. And what I mean by flipped is most of the lectures are actually going to be pre-recorded and available online. So you don't need to come to class to watch me talk and just give you the information on what the theory is. The reason why you're going to come to class is to actually work through these examples, work through the problem sets, and be able to ask any kinds of questions of things that are confusing you, or questions that you might have that aren't quite clear that I was giving in the lectures and the videos. So lectures will be made available online, and you're going to be required to watch those lectures and be able to go through any examples or exercises that are given on those online lectures. And then most of our class time is going to be spent on actually going over these examples and going over these exercises, and that'll be the chance you can have to ask questions of things that aren't totally making sense, or if you're curious about other extensions of the systems that we're looking at, to ask those kinds of questions. So that said, as part of flipping the course, you're also going to be encouraged to explore the material in what I've just called trial and error fashion. So if you're learning another language and you're trying to figure out how to say certain words, sometimes you just need to babble for a little bit until you get a feel for how exactly to sound out the different words. And then once you've babbled for a little bit, then you start seeing, okay, these are the right ways to do it and these are the wrong ways to do it, and then you can hone in on how to do it correctly. So this process of learning requires you to make mistakes, and particularly when it comes time to doing derivations and proving theorems, there's going to be lots of ideas on how to get how to prove a particular theorem, or how to build an argument up for a particular conclusion. And you're going to make mistakes. I still make lots of mistakes along the way. The point is that this is okay. You are not going to be penalized for trying out different kinds of ideas. Sometimes it will matter, so sometimes for some of the quizzes, they will be results based, but particularly for the problem sets, what I really want to see is that you're working through these problems. So often what we'll do is the grading will be based on you providing evidence of your thought processes. So for example, there might be a part of a proof that you don't quite get, or you're confused, you're not quite, you can't figure out how exactly you're going to get to the end point. And so one of the things that you will be able to do is say that. Say why you're confused. Say what it is that you aren't quite seeing how to do. And by laying out those thought processes, I can see where you're struggling, but I can also see that you're actually working and thinking through these issues, which are in many cases going to be quite difficult. And you will be rewarded for that. So this is going to be a very safe environment for you to try things out, to explore through trial and error. Making mistakes is going to be part of learning, and I'm going to ask you to make them. Maybe not on purpose, but there'll be a side effect of you trying out and learning this material. Okay, so those are just a few of the pedagogical remarks about how this course is going to be taught. As for the prerequisites, so what kind of background you think you might need, there are absolutely none. There are no university prerequisites that you need for this course, and there's no technical background you need either. So I'm not going to assume any kind of strong mathematics or computer science or anything like that. However, the course will be challenging, and if you're afraid of symbols, you might be scared away at the beginning. And I have to admit to all of you that when I started university, I was deathly afraid of formalisms. But that fear eventually goes away. But that just can't come by you sitting and watching the lectures and not working through it. That fear has to go away by learning and by actually practicing the systems and going through the exercises and homework problems. And this is also applicable to mathematical students. So the formalism we're going to use is going to seem very different than some of the formalism you may be used to in your other classes. So the way you become comfortable with this is just practice, practice, practice. And by using the formal notation yourself. So in some of the classes, one of the things we might do is actually just write out a bunch of the symbols so that we get used to them, we can give them names. And you'll be expected to do that during class time. Okay, as for the text, we're going to be using chapters 1 through 6 from the Logic book, which should be available at the UCD bookstore. And there's also a free solutions manual that you can pick up that's available online. I provided the link here for you. I'm going to put this PDF on the website so that you can link to it directly, or if you just enter it from the page, you'll see that as well. Okay. So, as for the course requirements, the course is going to be split up into 3 main parts. One of them is the problem sets, another one is the quizzes, and another one is the final exam. I'm sorry, I'm having a couple little technical difficulties. I'm just going to quickly end the video here, and I'm going to come back to these requirements in a second video.